Hello everyone, it's Mike Levin, Friday, July 22nd, 2016 at about 10:30 a.m. And I thought I'd do one of these talking head coding videos sort of from scratch without practice and to show you some of my latest work, the shift that's been going on that's sort of where I'm jockeying and positioning my code base to be as accelerated and simple to use under the Jupyter Notebook environment as possible. So as usual, to get started in the morning, if I don't have a session left over from before, I open a terminal and I'm using Anaconda's virtual environment system. So that means I typically go source activate journal. I use the same set of installed libraries for my day-to-day work as I use for keeping my journal, which is always here loaded in the background full screen in Vim on this particular laptop. After I do that, I cd to my home directory using Unix shorthand notation for that. If I were to pwd to show my current working directory, it'll show you that I'm in /users, which is the Mac's home directory, and my username, my main Mac login really. And in there, I don't have yet the package that I want. I basically unified 3 of my GitHub code bases, Goodsheet, Pipulate, and a project that I had started out calling URL lookup into one GitHub package. It has everything needed, and that is git clone git github.com /McLevin/ and the new name for it is SEO Notebook. Although I might be switching to SEO Lab very shortly because I watched a video from SciPy 2016 talking about the evolution of the Jupyter platform from just Notebook that we know today, which I should show you by typing Jupyter Notebook. It'll force the web browser to open. I don't think I currently have it running. So I'll make that full screen using this shortcut way because I like the Mac's full screen things now. And you can see it's my home directory. And in there, I now have that one I just cloned called SEO Notebook right there. And inside of there, you'll see 3 different IPython notebooks, plus the initpy. And I'm going to open all of them. I'll use the modifier key so they each go into a different tab. Now the main one we are going to be working off of is SEO Notebook, which imports Goodsheet and down below imports Pipulate actually several times. Once here, it does a reload and then it imports it again, and then I make the point of saying this is intentional. It enforces reliable updating of the Pipulate functions. And so what are the Pipulate functions? First, this is the entire looping structure of Pipulate. It's undergoing a profound simplification. This is essentially the way in which jobs are processed when you're using the Pipulate functions here, which is just this one testing function right now, with Google Spreadsheets, where the API for that is here. And since I just cloned this, it's going to be going through the full authentication process as if from scratch. It's even going to challenge me to put a file in location that I don't have there right now. And so I know that file exists where I was doing this before in URL lookup. So I guess I need a new command line for this. And cd home. And now I'll copy. It's in the directory called URL lookup. And I think it's myauth into the location I just created, which is SEO Notebook. And there, it should be in there now. There it is. So I shouldn't be challenged by that, but we will keep this here as a before and after. And you can see as a file updates itself on Jupyter Notebook, it responds here. I combine those two tabs together by accident. I don't like that, so I'll actually want to see that continuing to run so that when I do stuff here and Notebook notices and like updates something, we can see it kick off there. Some good information. And so now we go back over here and I'll start running it. Okay, here's our authentication. I click here. I decide who I'm going to log in as. I think my sample file is as me personally. I'm asking for more and more privileges. Right now it's Search Console, Google Analytics, and reading and writing to your spreadsheets, and viewing and modifying your email but not deleting. So this is going to be able to, in short order, do email operations, of course reading and writing to your spreadsheets, which a lot of this is based out of, and pulling data out of your Google Analytics and Search Console, previously Webmaster tools. So I just hit allow, and I get my little bit of code that I can copy and paste, and you can see the session is still busy and the asterisk is still on this block. So it's sort of in this frozen state, waiting for feedback, which would normally come through the terminal. But one of the beautiful things that Jupyter Notebook does is when you need terminal input, it just shows it right here in the web environment. So now I am completely logged in, and that before and after I promised you, I'll do an ls here again, and now there's a new file created, which not only has the code you need to hit against these services now during this session, it also has a refresh token, so that whenever the authenticated token goes bad, it can use the refresh token to get a new current valid authentication token. And over the long run, that means things that you do here using these tools will also be able to be scheduled and automated without being in attendance at a web browser, which is often required with OAuth authentication for a user context as opposed to a server context. Anyway, if we were to re-execute that block, it would no longer challenge us and ask for that authentication because it's there. Now the file that this is hitting is a Google spreadsheet that I don't have loaded in a tab right now. I'll probably pull that up, but I will show it to you running. So it imports from the Pipulate notebook twice because it's the first time running. And what it's basically doing is it's reading a spreadsheet, and for every line in the spreadsheet, it's just simply showing output. What output is it showing? Here. So it's just invoking the title function per row, and each time invoked, it's doing whatever is here. And it's doing that by, let me pause for a second. Okay, so here we are in the spreadsheet that has 37 rows, and that corresponds to these 37 lines that were printed out. And so why is it calling a function called title from over here? Because it is a in the Pipulate namespace, and it's named title. So you'll see here in SEO Notebook, I'm doing a dir of the Pipulate module, which I had imported here, and I am outputting, I'm executing the row passed in as parameters, which I'll get to in a moment, but I'm executing the function on the one that's found. And this, I was thinking of documenting how Eval is used in here. So basically, here it is right here. I'm creating a dictionary, which is actually loaded in memory right now. So if I were to add a cell by way of explanation, Pipulate has been imported by this time. Even though it's down here, it's gone through this loop. This is still in the main scope. So I have an object called Pipulate, and I should be able to just use its name and get something. Oh, don't misspell my own inventions. So it gives me the pointy bracket notation that it is in fact there. And you can do a dir of the things inside of Pipulate. And here's all its contents. And you can see one of its contents is a title. So let's see how I create this object. For dir Pipulate, see where it's not leading with underscore. So when you get rid of everything without underscore, so remember, we could like refer to stuff in here. Actually, I'll leave the dir there. That's a list. So if we highlight that and give it, say, x for x in, list comprehension notation, there is that list. But now you can also do a filter. If x is not underscore. Oh, but you're the first character of x. So remember, even string sequences, even strings are sequences, and you can look at just the first character. So I'm looking at this and this, and when I execute that, I get those things that are in the namespace of an external, just recently imported module, but I have it as string notation. So if you want to create a dictionary out of that has feeding the function name in and getting the actual function out, you do yet another comprehension. But this time it's not a list comprehension, it is, believe it or not, a dictionary comprehension. Oh, anticlimactic, I highlighted the wrong thing. A dictionary comprehension, where you can once again do x for x in, and that now creates a dictionary out. See, it's curly bracket dictionary, but I believe it's not a name value pair dictionary yet because it's just a set with the curly brackets around. That seems like set notation under Python 3. I think they converted it to, since they used the parentheses for something else, generator expressions. So we want something colon something. So I could turn that into a dictionary by just going x colon foo. No, I can't. Let's see. Oh, I guess it needs x twice. It could be, oh, 4x in dir populate. Yeah. Guess I'm doing something like this. And oh, I'm doing it on the inside. Watch where your x for x ins are. I was probably exactly correct here. There's no reason. Keeping my mistakes intact for your benefit. That's what I was trying to show. If you put key values on this on this outside, dictionary comprehension, something colon something, that becomes your key value pairs. Now your value here is somewhat unreasonably foo, but it can be this word eval. Eval. It's just x. Oh yeah, I do pipulate colon because if I were to do x, and you just tried to eval it, you would have a namespace problem because title is not defined in the current module. So my solution for that is to do string formatting. So the x gets plugged in back where the %s is, but really we're trying to create it to be accessed in a namespace. So that's pipulate dot. And so now that's going to be loaded out of there and it's going to eval that, a string for that, to get that back. So I actually execute that now, and now I have a dictionary where when I plug the word title in, I get access to the title function. So I can create this as a dictionary of functions. So I'm creating a variable called funcdict equals this here, right? See that? And this is where the power really comes into play, because as Guido van Rossum, I'll get his name correct eventually, does point out, switches are so unPythonic. You just create a dictionary like this, and then you just feed it keys like this, and then you can just call their internals like this, showing output. Now if I were to go over to Pipulate and say showing output and just put a 1 in there to give some sort of difference, now you'll see why I import things consecutively down here. If I were to re-execute that right there, where's the 1? The 1 is just not there. But if I were to do it here, oh, very anticlimactic. Let me test that. Let me save it. It should not require a run. No, wait, I have that wrong. I think it does require a run, but not a save. So each time you do a change, I believe you have to run it. And then you go back here. Maybe you have to save it. I'm going to have to check that right in front of you. But at any rate, now it's going to work. Oh, make a liar out of me. Now it's going to work here, though. There, see? That re-importing statement makes this true. Showing output 2. Let me just save it now. Go here, rerun it. There you have it, rapid experimentation with your functions. So we're going to be developing a library of Pipulate functions here in this way, so that every time we do some change, we just do a quick save, run over here, and we can test it. And that's doing something against each row of the spreadsheet. And it might not look that way now because this is just the output of the function, but let's take a look at what this row dict being passed in really is. If we were to actually look at the whole row dict, not a great idea because it's going to be a fair amount of messy output, but nonetheless, definitely worth doing to really show you what's going on and the relationship between this spreadsheet here that has these 37 rows in it, this function here, which has access to each row as it iterates through, and this function here, which is going to get invoked because it actually exists in the dictionary. Now, if we want to expand this system, well, first of all, before I expand the system, let me show you that that row dict that you're sitting on top of, you don't need to display its whole contents. You can display, for example, just column 1. Let's see, yeah, it's a 1-based index on column. Well, we'll find out. I ran it. I think I have to save it, though. And just run that over again. Oh. Here, okay, I believe it's a dictionary, so of course you don't do it by index, you do it by column name, much more powerful. So we're going to get the URL column. Keeping my mistakes intact for your benefit. Row dict URL. Save, and without running, good test. There you have it. The URLs are being listed. So say we wanted to create a function for outputting to this column, description, right? So we just go over to here, and we go def description, and now Pipulate functions are always going to get the same parameters. Star star meaning whatever's fed in as a dictionary, and an arbitrary name. So, you know, this truly is arbitrary. I can go foo, whatever gets fed in gets put into a dictionary named foo. So I'll say foodict. And here you've got that same dictionary, but what we'll do is we will just print. Now these will probably actually return values, but as I'm developing the system, I'm not returning the values back out for the update just yet. That'll be in a future video, but I'm making sure that any Pipulate function actually has access to everything in the spreadsheet, and that it can, you know, execute its code when it needs to. So here we'll go into foodict, and we will print. Okay, well, the only column with data is URL, but to not make it boring again, we'll just do the length of that. So the description is now just going to be the length of the URL, you know. Bear with me as I actually make these functions do meaningful stuff in future videos. But now I can just pop over here to SEO Notebook and run that again. Let's see. Yeah, okay. It's probably going to print the output of both functions. There you go. That and the length of that, that and the length of that, that and the length of that, and so on down the line. Because every time Pipulate scans across the columns and finds one whose column name is in the Pipulate namespace, is actually going to execute it and produce some output. The next step is, of course, going to be updating those output values so that, in this case, URL would plug back into here, and that length of the URL would plug back into here, and it would just pop all in at once until the list got super long, and then it would do it 50 or 100 at a time for optimizing the processing speed. So that's the stuff that is in Goodsheet that I'll be showing you about later. I actually coded most of this. It's now just a matter of pulling it all together. Like this is the chunkulate function that is actually responsible for that. And as you can see, it's in one big code or cell in Jupyter Notebook. And I'm actually going to be undoing that. I'll put it into its separate cells so that I can test things individually. And I'll output, you know, the if main, you know, if name equals main, so that I can run a test suite against each package. Goodsheet will have it for all its basic interactions that it does with Google Spreadsheet, and Pipulate will have it where I'll probably use one of the testing suites and build either unit testing or some other sort of testing into every Pipulate function so that you could just run this whole thing. My favorite is restart and run all, and test all your functions with, you know, there will be, I guess, harnesses to feed the correct input here so that you can get a predictable output. And this glues it all together. It just does the imports at the top, and this is a very interesting one. This is Notebook Finder. It's in that directory, and it's something that someone else wrote so that .ipynb files, IPython notebook files, can be imported as if they were .py files. So once again, we go back here and you look at the files that are in that directory. They are, in fact, IPython notebook. If I were to, whoops. Oh, I'm not in that directory. Yeah, oh, okay. That's actually what I want. If I were to look at that file right there, it's JSON. It is not a typical .py file at all, which is normally what packages on Python are distributed in. But this one here, I should probably CD in there, but this file here does everything necessary in order to load IPython notebook files as if they were .py files, so that you can keep your packages in that format while you interactively experiment, and you have the power of Jupyter Notebook and it broken up into cells instead of one big text editor, which is built in, but it wouldn't let you like develop functions and call them within a single block the way the notebook environment does. So until this is ready for prime time, and maybe beyond that, maybe I'll prefer to keep it this way for a while, all the modules beyond that one to get the process booted, which is this, will reside in IPython notebooks. One for Google Spreadsheet interaction, one for your inventory of pipulate functions, one to orchestrate the whole show, and I'm sure in the future I will have others for things such as interacting with much more at-scale databases in the background like Mongo or Redis. And so there you have it. This is a very preliminary introduction to the new system that is SEO Notebook, possibly SEO Lab, as I get in sync with the future direction of the Jupyter project, and an explanation of the use of Eval here, where it's basically just being used to use a name, to build a name value pair dictionary where functions are actually accessible using the Pythonic switch notation, in which the values and key value pairs can actually be functions, because functions can be the value in key value pairs. And whenever you access it like this, you can get the function, you can get the output of the function. It's a pretty fabulous, amazing trick, and this is really the culmination of a couple prior iterations with me getting it down to being expressed in as few lines of code as possible and making all the parts as organically growable and interactively testable as possible. So as you start to use Pipulate for its incredible SEO lookup processing capabilities, because of course I'll be looking up things much more interesting than the length of a URL, you will be able to learn Python right along with Pipulate under SEO Notebook, under Jupyter Notebook, under Anaconda, under Python, under your native OS, whatever it might be. Well, that's it. I'm pretty happy with that video. Thanks for joining me. Eval is not evil. Hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.